Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa has met with CEOs and business leaders to discuss the impact of the recent looting in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Ramaphosa says the impact on the country due to the destruction and looting can't be understated. Thousands of jobs lost, businesses are closing down, and infrastructure has been torn apart. Let's get some reaction from the Black Business Council President, Sandile Zungu, who was part of those meetings with the President. Mr. Zungu, thank you so much for making time. How did discussions with the President go yesterday? How soon can we expect an economic stimulus for affected businesses?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. The meeting went exceptionally well. All the business people that I've spoken to after the meeting truly appreciated the engagement. We are still smarting from the events of last week, absolutely no doubt. It was nice to get a feedback from various sectors, how they were affected and how they are recovering. I mean, if we start with mining, it's with great relief that the mining sector was not severely affected. It could have been affected because the export routes go via KZN, but they're back on their feet and they're appreciating making a contribution. Sectors like retail were definitely heavily hit. The logistics sector, the auto sector, just to mention a few. Every sector is trying to get back on its feet because there's a commitment that this economy has got to work. There are certain initiatives that were sought by business, such as, for example, what we call a bounce back and claw back fund. Bounce back to get the entrepreneurs, small business in particular, to be back on their feet, to be back in business, but at the same time recognizing that there was a lot of exclusion in the township economy, so that those entrepreneurs in the township can feel they've gained some lost ground, even that was lost even before the looting frenzy, as it were. So everyone is trying to get back on their feet, and there are initiatives that involve both the private sector as well as government, which are aimed at hastening the recovery.
You're speaking about this bounce back fund. What did government then propose? Did it make proposals? I know that the economic cluster met yesterday to discuss a possible stimulus and how small businesses, but also social relief, and how that can come into play. What is government's proposal to help business that was affected in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal?
There were not specifics around, for example, how the fund will be managed. The idea of bounce back and claw back are the narrative that emerged at the meeting. What form it will take ultimately, what it will be called, is for the technocrats to work on it. But there's definitely commitment on the side of government to allocate resources from National Treasury and to get the requisite ministers to be involved. And there's definitely commitment from both provincial governments of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng to be involved in demonstrating to the entrepreneurs, especially small businesses, that everybody cares and everybody recognizes the suffering that they've had to endure in the last couple of days. And to make sure that we build back better, to borrow from the words of the President at the meeting.
There are several businesses that are not sure whether they should open their doors because they're not actually sure if government has issues of security under control. We know that the threat is still out there. The President did say that the instigators, not all of them have been apprehended. Not all the networks have been dismantled as well. How concerned are businesses about how government has managed, has responded to this threat and this so-called failed attempted insurrection? Or as business, are you satisfied that government is in control and you don't have to worry about even opening up your doors without being concerned about possible instability again? That may go without our security apparatus being able to know about it first.
Now, maybe before I get to your answer, what is very interesting, which is a set of facts presented by the property sector support, is that if you look at these shopping centers, only 10% is made up of national big brands, whether it's big food retailers or big clothing retailers. 90% of the tenants comprises local entrepreneurs, small businesses, someone running a hair salon, someone who has got telecoms franchise, a pie shop at the corner. And those entrepreneurs or those small businesses tend to be local. When you say local, not necessarily, if you talk about townships, not necessarily from within the township, but they are local in Durban or local in KZN. And the sad part about those that they are largely uninsured. So when you talk about their capacity to really get back into business, it's quite limited. And those are the ones that would be deeply scared because maybe they've secured their businesses with their lifetime savings or their assets. And by the time some relief is provided after the bureaucrats has come to the party, to be very late.
Yeah.
Talk about the attitude of business. We are deeply concerned about the efficacy and the speed with which government has tended to respond on these issues. I think there's an overwhelming view that the foot, the boots on the ground, the soldiers, were too late, especially in places like Durban. They were crying for the visibility of soldiers, and they came in probably 3 days too late. So when you talk about the sense of comfort and pleasure of business, it's nothing to rave home about. I mean, there's enough spoken about intelligence or lack thereof, whether you talk about crime or police intelligence or you talk about national intelligence. Whatever they were doing, I don't think South Africa is convinced that such existed. And so for us as business, we are very single-mindedly focused on let's get the economy working. This economy has been hit very hard by COVID, by sovereign ratings downgrade, by all sorts of negative factors. But we are anxious to get this economy to work. Whilst the politicians talk about politics, we just want to see our businesses operating. We want to see us providing for livelihoods. We want to see the confidence in our economy being enhanced by us being back on business.